not just for you, for your work, but also for your family, because you finish earlier on a Friday and can get on with the weekend. Now, he was in a position where he had the luxury to do this, and fabulous. But I think in all of our lives, we can find those moments where we can free ourselves up to reflect. I'm going to leave you with a thought. And for me, the clarity advantage is this advantage sitting right here in the silence that we often try to avoid. So if you can find time to sit in the silence that we try to avoid with so many distractions, and just see how that feels. Hi everyone. Today I want to talk to you about sitting with yourself and reflecting. And I'm not just talking about sitting and purely just sitting without distraction, which is also very, very useful, but really more like deep reflection, just trying to get a bit more aware of who you are as a person, which of course we know very well. But if we want to take steps forward for ourselves, we need to really look at what we're doing, who we think we are, and where we would like to alter things, but not in a critical way, but in a way of just, I'm good with my life, but I'm always looking to be better. And I think self-awareness is a huge part of this. And I've spoken recently about the clarity advantage, and what that means to me is when you sit and deeply reflect, you start to get clarity about yourself and what you're trying to do and where it is in your life where you can make impact. Now, if you're an athlete or a coach of athletes, which I've been for so many years, I would have these reflections either with myself or sometimes with a colleague that I worked with. We'd talk things through until really the next step suddenly became obvious to us. And that was always very, very, very helpful. But clarity is such a powerful thing, because when you're very clear about your next steps, then it's easier to take them rather than having something like kind of fluffy in your head. The other thing about being clear is that comparison, which is fine in terms of learning habits from people who you admire and you think are successful. But be very careful that, it's impossible to evaluate for ourselves whether we are incredibly productive or inefficient, or, we, by whatever day we're feeling things or thinking things, how do we know what Elon Musk, for instance, gets done in one day? We can have something in our head. It must be loads and loads of things. It might not be. We just simply don't know. And even if you get a nice snapshot into someone's life for a day or a week, what is it like over the course of 6 months or a year that their life looks like? And, it's impossible really to know unless you literally live with the person. And therefore, we have to find, and this is where deep reflection helps, we have to find a way for ourselves that we are comfortable with and is driving the kind of success that we want. And there's a difference, meditation is incredibly popular, but there's a difference between meditation where you're just trying to find, rhythm and calm and, get to a place where, your stress is totally dissipated, to actually sitting and reflecting and thinking. And those are two different exercises, and both, useful, although I'm much more on the deep reflection side than I am into the meditation. So anyway, I would encourage you to take time every week to reflect. And it's interesting, one of my clients has a boat, and he asked me one day, I feel like I'm really busy and everything like that, but I'd really love to take the boat out this Friday afternoon. But, then I think of all the things that I need to do and I'm not sure I should. And I just said, take the boat, don't have your telephone, and just sail and think. And what I think will happen is you'll really enjoy it. And your following week will be very, very useful. And this might be something that you do regularly every week. Go out on the boat, and that's your deep reflection time. And you'll find that not going back to the office on a Friday afternoon might be extremely helpful, not just for you, for your work, but also for your family, because you finish earlier on a Friday and can get on with the weekend. Now, he was in a position where he had the luxury to do this, and fabulous. But I think in all of our lives, we can find those moments where we can free ourselves up to reflect. I'm going to leave you with a thought. And for me, the clarity advantage is this advantage sitting right here in the silence that we often try to avoid. So if you can find time to sit in the silence that we try to avoid with so many distractions, and just see how that feels. So that's my challenge to you. Start with 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and see how it feels. And if you do it at least once a week, maybe slowly but surely a half an hour starts to feel right to you. Anyway, I'll leave you with that. And next week, I have a fantastic guest on the program, Delmont Madison. He was a professional basketball player in several countries around Europe and in North America. And he has had some tough challenges to overcome. And now he's an entrepreneur, and his real drive is to help young people through his experiences of coming through so much adversity and tough stuff in his life, and to be in a really good place. And of course, when he talks about rough stuff, he's, not just wearing the t-shirt, he has lived it. It's a really fascinating conversation, which I hope you enjoy. And finally, I'd like to just have a word about my sponsors, Redvanly. They're mostly a golf brand, but they've branched out into tennis, and it's fabulous quality. I wear it all the time, not just when I'm training, but also here on the podcast. Very, very simple logo, understated, but the stuff is just so comfortable and wonderful to wear. So if you're looking for golf gear, casual gear, or tennis wear, why not check out Redvanly? Thank you very much, and speak again in a few weeks.
Thanks for watching Locker Room Power with David Sammel. If you enjoyed the episode, hit subscribe and leave a comment on your favorite platform. See you in the next one.